If you're scared to step into your role as a preschool owner, you're not alone. Today, we'll hear the story of Becki Reed, one of our Preschool All Stars, who was a dyslexic mom of 5 and who didn't consider herself a teacher until she finally was able to partner with one of her friends and create a thriving, successful preschool business.
Hello and welcome to the Preschool All Stars podcast. I am Bethany Johnson and I'm joined today by Becki Reed. How are you doing today, Becki?
I'm great.
Awesome. We are so excited to talk to you today and hear your backstory. Becki is a real OG. We're going to get all the deets today. First, I want to hear about your backstory, how you started, what was going on in your life before you decided to do a preschool.
Okay, well, at the time before I started my preschool or even had the idea of a preschool at all, I was a mom of 5 kids. Okay. My youngest was just about a year old. And I actually did a lot of couponing back in those days. Mm-hmm. And I was on a coupon blog. And this lady that ran the blog said, my friend, Joy Anderson's has just started this thing. And she just started doing the preschool in a box. And so I thought, that's interesting. I have no idea why I clicked on that link and went.
What year was that?
That was in 2010.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So probably, early spring or something of 2010. And so Joy had only really been doing her thing for a couple of years at that point, which I would later learn about. But basically, I went on that link and watched her little presentation. And my thought was, well, with this, anybody could do a preschool. I mean, I had 5 kids, and I really didn't have much of an education background at all. Have now discovered and learned that I'm dyslexic. And so I actually struggled with school and didn't really feel like I was very smart. Because of the spelling issues that I had growing up, which is kind of average kind of person. That's what I thought. And so I had done actually a lot of direct sales kind of things. I had worked for a scrapbook company and had done that for like 10 years. And so I had more of the business kind of understanding kind of things like websites and selling and talking to people about stuff. But I didn't really feel like I was qualified to be like a teacher or to educate people. And I really wasn't that kind of mom that spent a lot of time like crafting and playing and stuff. I was feed them and dress them and take care of their needs kind of mom. And so I really didn't think I was like super I have really no idea why I started on this path because logically it didn't seem right. But I also felt like if I was going to do this, I would need someone to help me with doing the other side that I didn't feel like I was very good at.
Right.
And so I did have a friend who had a teaching background, she had a teaching degree, but ended student teaching and started her family and hadn't really done anything with it. After that, she'd homeschooled a few times when her kids needed her to through the years. And she also had 5 kids. And so I asked her, I said, if I decided to do this idea, would you want to do it with me? And she's like, yeah, I guess. I never thought about it. But and so from the beginning, Jamie and I did started the school together. So we bought Preschool in a Box and we split it 50-50 and we had a 50-50 partnership for 10 years.
Wow. Awesome.
So she had that side and I let her kind of run all of that. And she was completely petrified. I had no idea about websites or accounting or all that. And all that stuff was just like way overwhelming that she would have never done it if she had to do that on her own.
Yeah.
And Joy's gave us all that kind of stuff anyways. So I hadn't built a website before. I wasn't afraid of technology, but I didn't necessarily know all of the things that I was given in Preschool in a Box. So, so that's basically where I was when I started and how that all kind of happened. So
awesome. Anyways. Well, that's cool. And then it grew exponentially. So what was it like to get your first sign up?
So each of us had our own, our youngest children were preschool age.
Okay.
And so we basically had her daughter and my my youngest two daughters. My youngest was, like I said, just like a year and a half by the time we actually started the school. The school actually was named after her, after my youngest daughter. So our school is called Lily's Pad Learning, and it started at my house. So it was Lily's Pad. So it's not really,
where did
not
you
the frog thing.
House? Was it in the garage or a living room or a bedroom?
There was an extra bedroom in our house. It was kind of an add-on part that had been, we have an older house, and so they had added on. So it wasn't in the main part of our house, which was nice. And it had its own bathroom. So it's kind of was supposed to be like the master suite of an old house. It's not, not like today's master suites, but, anyways, but we had little kids, so I didn't want to be on that far away from them anyways. So we just, when we bought the house, and with the thought of starting a preschool, and it had a little side yard with a sliding glass door that went out to it. So it was pretty set up and contained. And from the beginning, it was the preschool. We ripped out all the carpet and painted it, and had somebody come in and paint a pretty like tree mural on the wall that we added like leaves and things to, and the seasons and stuff.
Nice.
And awesome. It was just it was a tiny little room. That is my bedroom now, because they're all teenagers and I'm fine being away from them. But
nice. And were you licensed?
So in the state of Oregon where we live, they have what's called a recorded programs for preschools. And so you just have to be recorded, which basically is making sure you have background checks done on everyone that's over the age of 18, pay a very small fee of every 2 years. And you have like a little certificate that they have you post, and that's about all that they require, which to me is
that's
kind of
nice.
ridiculous.
But you didn't have to go through all the inspections and everything.
Yeah, no, it's nice that way, but at the same time, there is, I think, more regulations should be there.
Yeah, is that just for a preschool program, or is it for also like daycare?
No, it's different. So they're completely different. So we could only have kids for less than 4.5 hours, and they had to be between the ages of 3 and 5. And then since I was in a home, I could only have so many people coming and going from my house. And that's, once we started getting too big, then that's when we started looking for a space and moved out of our house. I did it in my home for about 3 years. And then we started renting from a church after that for the next 7 years. So,
And when you did it from your home, what was your schedule like?
Well, when we started, we had, we just started like 2.5 hours. I think we started with 3 days a week, and we had about 5 kids. You asked about signups. So we convinced a friend to let her daughter come and be part of it. And then we had one paying student that first, we started like in September. So it was only part of that year. And so we had one paying student by January. And then by the end of that school year, I think we were up to like 5 students. So we really started super small. Yeah. There was only like 7 kids. And so I think that first year we just did like a 3-day-a-week kind of class. For that first little bit. And then the next year we added 2 classes. We did a 2-day-a-week and maybe did an afternoon. But by the time we left after the 3rd year, we had, I don't know, it was so long ago, but I believe that we had at least, we had about 24 kids when we left. Well, yeah, something close to that. Yeah. So we were up to about, and we only had classes of 8 kids because it was so small of a room. There wasn't a lot of room to put a lot of kids in. Yeah. And 2 teachers. And so we always had to. So anyways, but yeah, so we had about that many kids. I just followed Joy's schedule of what she suggested of being able to have as many kids in the time of the day and doing it within the time that my kids were in school. So we would my kids started school like at 9. So we had preschool start at 9:30 and had a little break. And then we were done by 3 or so when the kids got home at 3:30. So, and we kept pretty much that schedule almost to the end. We started getting more creative at the end because we also had 3 classrooms by the time we finished. Before we left the church, we had 3 classrooms. So we had we had 36 kids going through there every morning, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday. So we actually cut out our afternoons by the end.
Okay. So
nobody
tell me
wants
about finding a spot, finding a space.
Yeah. So that was interesting. We started looking at lots of different things and buildings. And so then it gets a little bit more complicated because then there's all the rules about kids and a building and safety and all of that. And so churches are really great option because they aren't as regulated because they're nonprofits and you kind of just fall under their nonprofit. And so sometimes people are like, well, if you're for-profit and they're nonprofit, how can that work? And there are ways to do that is if they use the funds that you give them for to further their nonprofit purposes, like missions or food pantries or whatever else they're doing, then they can. You just have to be careful about a couple things that they're not charging a percentage of your income or something like that, because then it's based on income. So things that I learned over time that were.
So does that make you fall under a nonprofit as well?
No, not necessarily. I can still be for profit and they can rent to a for profit as long as they use that profit for their nonprofit purpose. Anyway, so in the beginning, it wasn't set up necessarily that way, but we all learned as we went. But I just happened to be approached by the pastor of one of our churches here that was my neighbor. And so he just came by one Christmas actually and brought some cookies and we were chatting. And he's like, how's the school going? Because he saw my sign out in front of my house and stuff like that. And so he, said, hey, we got some empty rooms. So we haven't used forever because they used to have a kindergarten preschool program, but they were pretty small at that point. They're mostly just a homeschool outreach kind of, they had a kind of a school going on there, but not much happening. So anyways, it worked out. We went over, we talked, we looked, and he's like, sure, let's do it. So we moved over there for year 4 and hired a teacher for the first time and had 40 kids that first year because we had 4 classes of 10 because now we had a bigger. So, yeah.
And then your friend was still teaching too?
So Jamie and I then switched to just administrative kind of things and growing it and figuring out we kind of switched from just using Joy's curriculum to writing our own and doing kind of filling out what we felt was important that we wanted to focus on more. And so we spent many years writing curriculum, which I'd have to say is good. It's a good learning experience and stuff, but it's a lot of work. And
it is a lot of work. That's what I'm doing right now. And it's a lot of work.
And there's a lot of really great things that are already out there. That, everyone has to go on their path and their journey to figure out what works for them and stuff. And, and we dreamt of writing a curriculum and selling it. And that, was a possibility, but like I said, once I learned about my dyslexia, then my focus and my understanding of what I could do totally changed. So, and then she moved away about 3 years ago. So, I was on my own. We were still partners for a while. But my confidence changed and my abilities and what I believed I could and couldn't do. Plus I had all these years of actually teaching experience, where when I started, I didn't really think I could do any of that. Anyways,
that's awesome. So, how do you think the Preschool All Stars helped you along that journey?
So, like you said, I started when there wasn't such a thing.
Right.
So, really, I had Preschool in a Box. I had my business partner and us working together. So, I think in some ways, having her kind of assimilate is what people get with Preschool All Stars now, because that kind of support, someone to bounce ideas off of. And to try to I didn't really feel like I was on my own necessarily because I had her with me doing the whole thing. Joy was doing her thing and growing and, all into what she was doing. But anytime I felt like I have an employee now and I need to figure out how do I hire or how do I, make a handbook or something so that they know what to do. Whenever I was in my next phase of growing, I would reach out to her and she'd be like, oh, I just finished making one of those and here, let me send that to you. And, it's, I would, pay her for that one little thing that she would give me because she didn't have any way of giving me stuff otherwise. And
so you were kind of like her tester thing for everything she has now.
Exactly. So so whenever I needed that, I would reach out to Joy for the next step that what we were doing, and she would help with that. And then we were about to look for our own space, ready to leave the church and find our own building and do all that. Just as Joy was selling her preschool and about to jump into the next phase. And so Jamie and I were her first inner circle people. And she took us we spent a long time spending a lot of energy on things we didn't need to, and not valuing what we had or what we did. And so we were undercharging for almost the whole time we had a school. And so we just, that year, she got us to streamline things and do fundraising in a different way. And because we had killed ourselves and done ridiculously huge events that cost so much money and made nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And then she's like, do this, try this. And we did it. And it was exactly how the most money we'd ever made fundraising for the easiest, least amount of energy. Plus I had a front office staff by then and a whole bunch of employees. So I'm like, here, do this project. I'll look it over. And I pretty much myself didn't do anything and made $7,000.
Nice.
And we've never made more than $1,300 or something like that.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I got to look up some of those fundraising strategies then.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Definitely look at it. It works. It absolutely works. So anyways, but so, and when she started the All Stars, we were one of the first group of people that were part of the All Stars. And so it's been really fun to see as everyone's journeys have started and their ideas with names and logos and questions that they have. And I think it's really, really valuable. We struggled for a long time on our own. And yes, we had Joy's foundation we wouldn't have been started without it. But the moment we got into the group and into where we had that feedback and she was able to give us these tools, everything changed. And we went from barely paying ourselves really for the last few years just to keep it going because our employees needed more money and we live in a place where they can get a lot of money and it was hard and we weren't valuing ourselves, to saying, you know what, we're pretty much going to double our rates. And our family's going, whoa, are you sure? And then they would go and check out everybody else and then come back to us and go, okay, nope, we're still in. This is still the best place.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
And actually all of the other preschools in our area actually brought their rates up to where we were.
Wow, that's awesome. Raising the market value. That's amazing.
Changed the whole thing of it. And that the year after we got into Inner Circle and started having this community start to be developed and grow, we went from hardly paying ourselves to paying ourselves well and still having thousands of dollars left over every month.
Wow.
That we were able to put away into a building fund. And it totally changed everything. And the happiest our parents had ever been, academically the best year. Every person that had a child that could come back or had a younger child, all registered. And we had 50 students by the time we had to close for COVID in March of last year. We ready for this next school year.
Wow.
It was pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
Happened, so.
Yeah. So what happened with COVID? You're not open at all right now?
No, because me and my partner had decided already to dissolve our partnership in December, and that was our plan. We actually did open a whole nother school in Spokane where she moved to. She started a second school up there. Did that out of her home for the first year and was ready to go get a building, and I was ready to go get a building. And both of us felt like, no, don't do it. We're like, why? Everything's going so great. Why not? And that's why, because if we'd signed contracts, we would have been in, and in the states that we're in, we're still pretty much locked down after almost a year later. And so all of here, we wouldn't be able to be in person at all. And that's just not going to work very well for preschool kids. I know lots are doing online. I did online for the 3 months at the end of the school year. I switched to online. We were in the middle of all that when Joy saw the need for it and created all of it and just, jumped in and did it. I had about half my families, about 30 kids that were signed up to do the online for the last 3 months of school. But for me, it was just the time. It was time for me to do something different. I've done it for 10 years. And it was time to end that partnership. And I have 5 kids of my own still, because actually anyways, we adopted 2 kids. So I actually have 7 kids now.
Wow. Congrats.
My oldest 2 are graduated and 1 is married, but now I still have 5 kids.
Mm-hmm.
10 years later, I still have 5 kids. I don't know what happened. Actually, 7 now. Anyways, and so they're all at home doing school. And most of my staff are also mothers of school age children. And so it just wasn't necessarily going to work. And we have a lot of families that were already contemplating pulling kids out to homeschool. And so I just felt like it was just the right time. And we'd already told the church that we were planning to be going. And that's what their plan was. So I just felt it was time to let it go and go on to the next adventure, which I'm sure preschool will still be in there somewhere in some way. But like I said, once I discovered about my dyslexia and started doing tutoring and becoming a tutor for dyslexic kids, I definitely feel that that's where I need to figure out how to make it more affordable and reachable to everybody. And that just everybody needs to learn how to read this way. So I have grand ideas of creating my own world of influence.
That's cool. And, like a tutoring center type thing for tutoring company?
I believe the online is never going away when it comes to education. And so even though I didn't really, I could have jumped the hoops and done whatever to keep my preschool alive. It just knew it was time. It was just the right time to let it all dissolve and start something new. So,
This is a great time to start something like that. I mean, this is, like you said, I think the online is sticking around for a long time and forever. And this is a great time to, start new ideas on how to educate.
Yes, exactly. So, and reach more people, because that's the biggest problem with all that. I won't go on my soapbox on dyslexia or tutoring, but in essence, I knew it was the right time to switch to something new. And the greatest thing is everything that you learn is still with you, and it's all knowledge and you have it. So even though in some ways it's really sad that my school but it was also a really great way to say, like, well, how do you ever stop something that's going so good? And your parents would be always like, I put my next kid and you can't stop. And so I believe that it was a huge blessing, because they all totally understood why I wasn't going to continue, even though they were heartbroken, but they just gushed love and appreciation. And we ended on just this really great high note, and everybody just, they're like, we hope you'll be back and you can do it. And it was just, they were just super supportive and loving, and more upset at the world than at me. So it was just, it just all was a good time to have it wrap up. So,
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome that it worked out that way. What do you think was the biggest roadblock you had to overcome with starting your own preschool?
I think a lot of it's a lot of mindset. It's believing that you can do things that you don't feel that you're qualified to do, but you have a passion for, or even just like, I don't know if I had a passion for educating kids, but I used to always play the teacher when I was a little girl with my siblings. And, I've always been playing that part. And I know that is in essence who I am. I just didn't classify myself in that world because of how I felt about my own brain and my own abilities, And so mindset, I think, is a big one. And another thing that I'm struggling right now is I'm deciding to do something big again and do something different. Is why me? Why would anyone, want me to teach their kids? Or there's so many more people who know much more about dyslexia than I do. So why, and have done programs after programs. And there's so many things out there about reading programs and stuff. Why me, and what do I have to offer? And the real answer is, why not you? Why not you? Why you have a role and sphere of influence that other people don't have, and you don't know who you can affect, and so why not you is really what I keep telling myself, and what I would tell others. Just why not you? I never would have ever imagined despite the fact that I had to do it all kind of on my own in a lot of ways, not with the amazing amount of support that you guys have, the opportunity to have with everything that Joy has to offer and give. I still found massive amount of success, and I never thought I would teach over 600 students. And I think I've employed like 10 or 15 women over the last 10 years. And the families, whole families of children that we have taught, and friendships that only existed because they were at our preschool together, And so, I didn't think I was going to create a community, a culture, You just never thought amazing. What you can do. And with Joy, you can do it so much faster and make so much more money. Because if I was starting now with what everyone has the opportunity to have with everything out there that Joy has put out there, we would have been making so much more money so much sooner, and not have spent a lot of time wasting our time spinning our wheels on things that just didn't profit us.
Yeah.
They just didn't work, and having to test all of that, But I know all the things that I've learned will help me in the next phase of my life. And I'm homeschooling. We have a little homeschool group. And of course, I'm like, I'll take care of the little kids because that's my world. Yeah. And they're like, we love it. Thank you. So basically, they're getting like free preschool this year. I preschooled my younger children because I have a 5 and a 7-year-old. And so I was like, it's just a tiny little group, but it still makes me feel like I got to make myself a school room and put my stuff somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I still got to do a classroom this summer, even though every summer I've done it forever. So anyways, so it's been great to bless other people's lives, even just a little bit, while I'm, learning the things that I am with my own kids and getting to spend time with them and help them, with what's going on with them. So anyways, so
awesome.
I guess the biggest thing is just don't think that you can't, or that you don't have the qualifications or whatever, It's everybody has a purpose. If you feel called to it, then there is a reason you're doing it. And definitely don't struggle on your own. Find groups of people. I absolutely believe in having, support and looking to those that have done what you are wanting to do and have done it to levels higher than you, so that they can answer any question that you have.
Absolutely.
And they've done it and they know exactly how to help. And to them, it's nothing. Once, that to them, it's not a struggle. And so it gives you hope that this can not be a struggle for me, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. I love that. Why not me? That's a great motto for the All Stars. Why not me?
Yeah. Exactly.
I saw some meme the other day I was like, oh my gosh, this would be perfect for the All Stars. It was about like sharing your story because you don't know if that could be someone's inspiration. And that's pretty much what we're doing on this podcast, is just giving people inspiration, letting people share their stories so they, can understand like, oh yeah, if why not me? If them, why not me? So that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Becki, for joining us. Your story is awesome. And I know you will go on to do something great for this new program that you're thinking about with dyslexia. That's awesome, because we definitely need that. As a teacher, I've seen many kids struggle with that. And it's awesome that you're looking for something to help them too. Yeah. Well, happy holidays. Thank you for joining us right after Christmas. I hope you had an awesome Christmas.
Yes, it was great. And thank you. And I'm excited to see how this grows and how many people are affected by all of these stories. And thanks for taking this on and making this happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're having a great time doing it. You have an awesome weekend and awesome New Year's.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
If you'd like to have a success story just like that one, I invite you to join our Preschool All Stars. It's my exclusive membership community where you'll get mentorship from me with weekly Q&A lives, support and guidance, and friendship from hundreds of women on the exact same journey as you, starting, running, and growing their preschools, and my exclusive access to Preschool University, every training and done-for-you file that you'll need for every milestone on your journey to help you start, run, and grow your preschool. We've all been there, and we've got the exact same steps that you need to go through, but we do it all very quickly so that you don't have to waste time or money doing the wrong things at the wrong time. We'd love for you to join our Preschool All Stars membership. Just go to preschoolallstars.com or click the link in the description to immediately jump into Preschool All Stars. Again, go to preschoolallstars.com and we'll see you there.